For the last 2 years prior to the Trump becoming president, everybody was concerned about safety and our borders and people, illegal people coming into our country that were harming our citizens. And so we want to talk about safety. The president had a listening session with law enforcement, but now sanctuary cities, there are actually cities around America that are taking in people consciously and willingly that has violated the law, that are here in America illegally, and they're not communicating or cooperating with the federal government and to be able to enforce those laws, because there's laws that says you can come in, but just come in legally. And so today, when we get back from this break, we're going to be talking about what does God say about sanctuary cities. Did you know this? I'll give you a little hint. God actually had sanctuary cities. Well, listen, you remember the president, he was talking to us about safety, and this last presidential campaign was about, ISIS that are attacking people around the earth, bombs that are blowing up, 350,000 radical jihadist terrorists, according to Kamal from Kuhn Ministries.
450,000.
450,000, and that's an old number.
Mm-hmm.
The MS-13 that's in every state, that gang, and it's like nobody was doing anything about it.
Not to mention drug cartels and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to talk about sanctuary cities, because grown folks, mayors and governors, some of them are saying we're going to violate the law and we're going to allow people who entered the country illegally, even if they committed a crime, to stay here, and we're not going to cooperate with the government. This is like a big ordeal. So the President Trump invited some police officers to the White House to have a listening session, because he wants to get behind every department in the government that makes our citizens safe. We'll take a look.
My highest duty as president is the security of our people, the security of our nation. That is why I've already taken numerous actions to enhance domestic security, including the creation of task force on reducing violent crime, an interagency task force to dismantle criminal cartels, along with historic actions to secure our borders and remove criminals from our country. We're removing MS-13, we're removing criminals all over the country. They're getting out, we're taking them out, and for that, I thank you folks. I know you're in strict coordination with General Kelly and the Border Patrol and ICE, and you've been doing a fantastic job. As president, I will work night and day to make America safe again.
To make America safe again. It's like the people of America just said, we need somebody who is going to seal our borders up and allow people to come to the country legally, but somebody that we actually know. Sort of like your house.
Yeah.
It's like everybody that's talking has an opinion on this. They pretty much have a door on their house, and they lock it at night, and they determine who's going to come through or not. For some reason, some people are not wanting a door on our country. The door, you can use the door, but you want to ask who's actually coming in first.
That's right.
Well, as I was abiding with the Lord and to just focusing on Him, He begins to speak to me about sanctuary cities. As a matter of fact, look at this map right here. There is sanctuary cities. These are cities that reportedly declared that they are going to take illegal aliens, people who came to this country who are not a citizen of this country, and put them in their cities and not cooperate with anybody else, the government, federal government, and tell them that they're ICE, in regards to immigration, and so they're literally just openly saying that. And let's look at that; it's all over America. Wow. And so they're calling them sanctuary cities. And so, of course, the things that you're hearing on throughout media and things that are going on, you can pull that image down. Is the fact is that everybody's talking about, like, it's part of our language, sanctuary cities. And so I was, as I was spending time with God began to speak to me through His Word. And in Joshua chapter 20, the book of Joshua, He talks specifically about this. Think about this. Remember when Israel, God's chosen folks, are coming through the wilderness and they're being taken to the promised land, and all the things they had to go through to be able to do that. Well, remember how when they were coming in And Joshua was taking them in, Moses stayed in the wilderness, and they're bringing them in. They begin to divide the land up like lots and plots and that type of thing. But why God began to sanction off the land, different areas to give to different tribes of Israel, families, at the very same time, John, think about this, the very same time, God created sanctuary cities. So God is into sanctuary cities.
Amazing.
If you're listening, you're watching, hold on a moment. We got to find out why God's doing it. But and the question we want to ask ourselves, and we're totally open to this question, but we know what we found out is, well, are sanctuary cities right? Is the right thing to do? I mean, you got man's laws and man's things, but what does God say about sanctuary cities? And I was so surprised to find out, John, the very first thing God does when he starts dealing out the promised land to Israel, he began to say, but you need to set up a sanctuary city. But the question is, what is this?
This is in the Bible. A sanctuary city is in the Bible.
Yeah, like real estate 101 and plots and lots and, all those descriptions of land, But he said, but there needs to be sanctuary cities. And I want you, don't get excited yet, get upset. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense about what God says. John, we're going to read from Joshua chapter 20, and this is when Joshua just came in and he's dealing the land out according to the tribe and the size but let's just see what happened during that land distribution.
Then the Lord said to Joshua, tell the Israelites to designate the cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses.
Hold on a minute. So God instructed Moses to tell everyone you got to have sanctuary cities. So right now we know, talking about sanctuary cities. Let's put that image up again. You're looking here. The question we want to ask ourselves is, are these sanctuary cities? So maybe imagine America being the promised land, right? And so they are beginning to distribute the land. And so you got sanctuary cities set up. So, but let's read a little bit further down. You can pull that back down, but it's the same thing in the context of verbiage. But what does it mean? Okay.
So that anyone.
So this is the reason why you have a sanctuary city.
So that anyone who kills a person accidentally.
No, somebody kills someone. Which means that a possible crime maybe has been committed or hasn't been committed, but they don't necessarily know yet.
Right.
Okay.
So that anyone who kills a person accidentally and unintentionally may flee there and find protection from the avenger of blood.
So this is important. So sanctuary cities are a place that you can run to, because even if it was an accident, some people get very angry.
Oh, yeah.
And accidents happen. That's what they call car accidents and different things taking place. But I think what's interesting is that God has given us a free will, and he's showing us how our free will is here, that we can make decisions that harm folks, but it won't necessarily be intentional. We can make a mistake. We can have an accident. Accidents happen all the time. But God provided cities of refuge so that person can actually get through that season of their life. So it's sounding, I don't know. So let's keep reading it.
When they flee to one of these cities,
that's happening right now. They're advertising sanctuary cities, and people are running to the cities. Okay. But the thing too, it was a person who didn't commit a crime. Right. It was an accident. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
So when they flee to one of these cities, they are to stand in the entrance of the city gate and state their case before the elders of that city.
Well, that's important, because then sanctuary cities had judges, and the gates are the government. And so they had to come into that city, and the government had to cooperate with its citizens that are coming there. And so there needs to be judges. So I hear reports right now that our President Trump, has set up judges with Homeland Security on the border to make sure everyone gets justice in regards to, to hear their case. What happened? Something may have happened. So a sanctuary city then has gates, has government, and has a place where you present your case. Now what's been happening is they have been coming in illegally. They go to the court immediately, and they give them a court date, and then they just let them go. Catch and release, they call it. Which sounds almost...
OTM, other than Mexican, right? When they
no, it's everybody.
Okay.
It's everybody, and that... so that's not what catch and release wouldn't be it. It would be like, stay here at the gates and present your case. And so you're creating courts right now to just be dedicated to, we need to hear your case. What's going on? Why did you flee? Why are you here? Okay.
Then the elders are to admit the fugitive into their city and provide a place to live among them. If the avenger of blood comes in pursuit, the elders must not surrender the fugitive because the fugitive killed their neighbor unintentionally and without malice and aforethought.
Well, this is important. So then when you see sanctuary cities today protecting the immigrant that's in their city, that would be a right thing in the eyes of God if, in fact, there was no crime committed. But the thing about it's not the fact that somebody's an alien, it's the fact that they're illegal immigrant. Are they illegal? You broke the law. So if you present your case at the gates in the government of the city, then you would say, I committed a crime.
And some people don't realize it's illegal.
Yeah, it's
to
called
enter
illegal
the country.
immigration.
That's why it's an illegal immigrant, because you came here not following the proper laws of the United States to enter the country. You can come, but you got to come the correct way.
Yeah, and so in the context of that is that, well, you shouldn't just catch and release, give a court date and release. It's like, let's present your case. And some people have a legitimate reason for being here, the persecution, something's going on, and they can hear the case right then and there.
Yeah.
But if you just get a court date and take off, that wouldn't be defined as a biblical sanctuary city. And so you actually need to be able to listen. And so the local governments reportedly are not even cooperating with the federal government, and they're just choosing not to enforce federal law, which is a violation of the Constitution, what's going on, right?
That's right.
What else?
They are to stay in that city until they have stood trial before the assembly and until the death of the high priest who is serving at that time. Then they may go back to their own home in their town from the city from which they fled. Any of the Israelites or any foreigner residing...
That's important. So any Israelites and any foreigner. So what we'd say today is like any citizen of America and any immigrant in America, people living amongst us. Say it again.
Any of the Israelites or any foreigner residing among them who killed someone accidentally could flee to these designated cities and not be killed by the avenger of blood prior to standing trial before the assembly. Prior to standing trial.
So the court system is very important in how this works. And so we want to be able to pray for wisdom to be able to make sure that everybody gets justice, because they may need to be here. But the sanctuary city is not, what's being done is not a biblical, because a lot of times people are using what God's word, but they're not really using it. They're just kind of manipulating folks with it. But so sanctuary cities are of God, but it's for folks that didn't break the law. It's ones that didn't break the law. And so when we get back from this break, we're going to break this thing down a little bit and begin to look at America and what's taking place, because this is going to be a big deal. The president just signed an executive order to be able to defund basically sanctuary cities. And one of the federal judges, I believe it was, struck it down, and it's on pause. And it's like, the things that are happening, it's like you got to have a righteous judge. I mean, you got to have judges that are fulfilling. When you're a federal judge and you're a judge, you raise your hand and you swear that you'll protect and defend and represent the Constitution of the United States. So it needs to be checked out in the Constitution. That's why I really appreciate this new Supreme Court justice. He's known for his constitutional correctness. His name is
Neil Gorsuch.
Neil Gorsuch, a constitutionalist, and that's so important. God is all about sanctuary, a sanctuary city, but his definition of a sanctuary city is a legal sanctuary city, one that allows people that haven't violated the law to be able to stay in. But once you violated a law, the sanctuary cities that God talks about, that wouldn't be it. Of course,
you have no access to it.
Yeah, zero access to it. But the first thing you do is let somebody come to your city. That's a good thing. But the next thing you do is they appear before the courts to find out. This is a Judeo-Christian nation. Our law, our foundation is based on biblical principles. It just is. And that this is where they're getting this from. That's why you have to actually, even when you're in rebellion to the Constitution and you're a leader, you still had to actually give them a court date, because they have to appear before the judge. The thing is that you should have held them there in that city till they appear to the court.
In court.
That's what it says. Instead, they just kind of let them go somewhere all over the country. And so, and there's a lot of great people, and I can understand why somebody would want to come to America. I understand that. But there's also other folks that aren't good, that mean harm to our country. That's why there's a system, even a system in sanctuary cities.
A just system.
A just system. And it's so important because, and some of the reports are they're putting judges right there on the border so they can immediately give justice to somebody.
Justice.
Yeah, which means they can come on in if something's going on. You know, there's a particular part of, you could see this at VFNtv.com, or you can go to, even to our YouTube channel and see, don't vote for what you flee from. You know, and it's because I understand they're leaving maybe an oppressive government, but you can come in legally. And so I think about this. So people are talking about that it's unfair, some people, to vet the people. In other words, research them, find out if they're okay and stuff before you let them in the country. And they
Find
say,
out if they have terrorist tendencies, if they exploded anything in the past.
Uncle Hussein, what was
Part
that?
of a secret organization called ISIS, anything like that, right?
Right.
That's important to know.
Yes, it is. And so then you hear things like, I'm going to build a wall. It's going to be a big wall. It's going to be a beautiful wall, but it's going to have a gate in it. Well, that means legal people can come through that gate.
Sure.
And then we're going to enforce and put Border Patrol, more officers, law enforcement on the borders to secure our borders. And people are upset about that. And it's like, think about this, especially if you're a Christian. Did you know that heaven itself, heaven, has a wall around heaven? It has a very high wall. It has gates, beautiful gates, made of pearl, but gates. And at those gates, they have Border Patrol. It's called angelic angels right there, letting people come in and don't. And it's actually very stringent vetting to be able to get into heaven.
Who has access?
You just can't, even though people may tell people, you know, you can get in. The thing is, that's the worst lie of all, right?
That's right.
But some people, you know, aren't and are. But you have to go through that vetting process to be able to come in. You don't. Well, no. Listen, because you heard about the wall, the gates, the guards, and it's like, listen, heaven. If you call it, heaven's got high walls and gates and guards. As a matter of fact, let's go to the book of Revelation and look at Revelations. I believe it is 21. Yeah, 21. Look at this. It says, come and I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me. This is an angel that came, has taken John on this particular journey, about to show him heaven. He says, and he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And then he goes on to say, and it shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewels like jasper, clear as crystal. So it's the beautiful heaven, right? Look at this. This is next. It had a great now.
Great.
Think about this. Great. I mean, how many times like it's gonna be huge. It has a great high wall. So it has a high wall with 12 gates. So it's got a beautiful gate. It's going to be a gate in it. It's a gate. And with 12 angels at the gates, guards. Wow. Border Patrol for heaven. And he says, and on these gates were written the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east. There was 3 on the north, 3 on the south, and 3 on the west. And listen, not only that there's strict vetting to be able to get in heaven. You can't just show up and get in heaven. In 22, he says very specifically who gets to get in. So if there's stringent vetting to get into heaven,
hello.
It says, blessed are those who are washed, who wash their robes, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may go through the gate into the city. I just want to encourage you right now. You're hearing people use terminology that sounds righteous. It seems right. But the truth is, if heaven has a gate, if heaven has a high wall, if heaven has a guard, us being mere men and have mere nations that God has allowed to stand, we have to actually have a system on our borders to protect us. If heaven has a high gate, a high wall, having a wall on the southern border is not a bad thing. It works for Israel, but notice this. It's Jerusalem. The new Jerusalem comes down. Why we're so focused on Israel all the time in Jerusalem, you're looking. Because God is all about this epicenter of earth called Jerusalem. And there's going to be a new Jerusalem coming down and in heaven. It's going to be awesome. But the thing about this is, to say that a nation should not have walls is to say that heaven shouldn't have walls. To say that there shouldn't be gates that people can just come through is to say that heaven shouldn't have gates. And to say there shouldn't be guards and Border Patrol guarding our borders, to say that heaven shouldn't have angelic guards. And to say that anybody can come, that's almost like telling anybody they can go to heaven. It's like there is vetting process. You have to actually, and so if it works, if it's what God does in heaven, if it's what Israel did for years in the city of David with walls, I mean, if you think about it.
It's what people do to have access in their own home.
Yes.
You vet every person that walks through your house, unless you leave the doors wide open.
Yes.
You make sure that the person comes in is going to be who you want them to be in.
Yes. And you think about this. We're going to go to break right here. But you got to hear, this is, we have a Syrian that was being interviewed on a news program, and he was saying, listen, we don't want to be refugees. We want to stay in our country. We don't want to be refugees going all over the face of the earth. We thank President Trump for protecting us. And it's like, but our own people, some of them are saying we don't want to be protected. And it's like, no, you got to hear this, because it's totally amazing when you're hearing people saying, listen, we want a nation. We want to live in our own country. I mean, I don't want to have to leave my country. And it's just going to bless your heart to realize all this stuff that's being said is just not true. They're just saying things. It's not biblical. The structures to rebel against the government, to not have a justice at the gate of the city, and not to ask the person, are you a murderer? Did you kill somebody? And people that have records that already have killed people and drunk driving, the reports are, and has harmed people and murdered and done different things, they're just letting them come in. And our president's saying, listen, no, we want to be like heaven in regards to, we want high walls, we want gates, we want guards on those gates. And we get back from this break, you're going to hear a Syrian say, listen, tell your president, President Trump, we thank you for helping deal with these people who are attacking us with chemical weapons. We don't want to be refugees. We want to stay in our own country. Where we're finding out a biblical view of sanctuary cities, that they are real. We should have them. And this is a Judeo-Christian nation. So when they created these concepts in American laws, they considered these different things. And that we, we have, our Constitution says you have a right to a speedy trial, a jury of your peers. But nobody, we have, even the aliens that live amongst us should have that kind of justice, right?
The Constitution is a good thing. We just need to follow it.
Yeah.
This is an amazing document, but it's not surprising, but it's foolish to continue to promote these sanctuary cities like this.
Think about this. So Syria, they bombed the Syrians, the leader did of Syria. Assad bombed his own people with the chemical weapons, and our president responded. And you hear what the secular media is saying about this, but the people in Syria are going, thank you, Mr. President. We don't want, as a matter of fact, listen to this interview now. You got to hear it.
I woke up for some reason. I couldn't sleep. I woke up. I saw a lot of texts on my phone. I saw the news. I cried out of joy. I jumped. I thank God. I don't know. I was overwhelmed. We've been asking for protection. We've been asking for consequences for more than 6 years. And today, for the first time, it happened. For the very first time, we see Assad held accountable just for once. Held accountable for his crimes against humanity. I was overwhelmed. I felt grateful for President Trump. I felt grateful for the United States. I felt grateful for each and every person who lobbied and called and kept on talking until someone actually listened.
There are people in America, and I hear you supportive of President Trump, and so many people are, Democrats and Republicans, but there are also people over here in America who are saying, all right, so clearly President Trump is motivated by just, as we all have compassion for these just horrible images of these babies who were killed, but at the same time, this is a man who doesn't want Syrians to come into this country with this refugee ban. I want to just play some sound. Hillary Clinton weighed in.
We cannot in one breath speak of protecting Syrian babies and in the next close America's doors to them.
Quickly, Qasim, how do you see that?
With all due respect, I didn't see each and every person who was demonstrating after the travel ban. I didn't see you 3 days ago when people were gassed to death, when civilians were gassed to death. I didn't see you in 2013 when 1,400 people were gassed to death. I didn't see you raising your voice against President Obama's inaction in Syria that let us refugees, that made us refugees get kicked out of Syria. If you really care about refugees, if you really care about helping us, please help us stay in our country. We don't want to come to the United States. We want to stay in our country. We want to stay in our country. With all due respect, this is hypocrisy. If you really care, help us stay in our country. We don't want to become refugees. We want to stay in our country. Help us establish safe zones. Help us stay safe in our country. And if you just give me a few seconds just to tell President Trump once again, please, sir, what you did was amazing. What you did was a powerful message of hope for a lot of people inside and outside of Syria. Please don't stop on this. Please help Syrians stay in their country. Please establish safe zones.
Help Syrians stay in their country. That was the response to coming on those chemical weapons that were fired on their own people, killing men, women, children, babies. And they're saying, we want to be in our country. We want to be Syrians. Whoever's doing this other stuff, trying to push us out of our country, which is, Saul Alinsky, radical Islam, all these different things. And it's like, you know what? We're finding out the truth is starting to come out and it's being revealed. And I hope you learned a lot about sanctuary cities today. We're going to have to go. We're going to put more at VFNtv.com. You can find out some more details. Thank you for watching VFN TV. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. A lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at VFNtv.com.